Good afternoon, everyone. Well, and welcome to February's edition of CISA's Future Forward Series, which is being hosted by CISA's Office of Chief Acquisition Executive, OCAE. My name is Monique Park, CISA's Industry Engagement Coordinator. Before we get started, I would like to provide some guidelines and information to make the event run smoothly for everyone. Please note that all information shared in CISA's Future Forward events regarding CISA's future capability needs or requirements is solely for informational purposes. The presentations and discussions in any way expressed or implied do not obligate the government to purchase or otherwise acquire the items or services discussed. The government is not bound or obligated in any way to give any special consideration to any organization on future contracts resulting from these communications. Today's Future Forward event is being recorded. The use of the Microsoft Teams webinar recording is approved for information sharing only. Misuse of the recording and transcription without the approval of CISA is prohibited. By participating in today's Future Forward, you consent to the recording and subsequent rebroadcast of any interaction. Please check out CISA's YouTube channel to watch our Future Forward and other engagement event videos, as well as many informative videos on CISA's mission. Note, if you disagree with our recording disclaimer statement, you may opt out of viewing or participating in today's event. Also, before signing off from today's event, please take a minute to complete our short survey. The survey link will be provided throughout and again at the end of this presentation. On the screen now is our agenda for the day. For this afternoon, we have opening remarks from Christian Van Ginder, Deputy Chief Acquisition Executive of Business Operations Division. We are joined by today's presenter, Dr. Garfield Jones, Associate Chief of Strategic Technology Office at the Office of Strategy, Policy, and Plans. Dr. Jones will provide an introduction to the research and development compendium investigations led by his team. We have a lot of information to cover this afternoon, so in order to maximize our time together, we will not be taking any questions from the audience at the end of presentations. If you miss any part of today's presentation, please check out CISA YouTube channel at our later time for this video recording. Also, today's presentation slides will be provided via email from our industry engagement program mailbox, as well as by posting on sam.gov announcement amendment. Now that we have gone through all the housekeeping for the day, on to the good part. I am pleased to introduce Mr. Christian Van Ginder, CISA's Deputy Chief Acquisition Executive, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Monique, and welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend our event. We deeply appreciate it and hope you glean quite a bit of information from our speaker today. Before I hand it off to our speaker, I would like to tell you just a little bit about the Office of the Chief Acquisition Executive and our role here. So we are comprised of 3 subdivisions. One of them is our Chief of Contracting Office, another being our Acquisition Governance Office, and then, of course, Business Operations, which is the subdivision I am over. So given our position here at CISA, we have been tasked with also spearheading CISA's engagement efforts. As you can see on the slide here, there's a number of things that we've done to further push forward our efforts in engaging with industry in our technology communities. We've introduced a host of one-on-one meetings that we hold weekly where a vendor or an industry representative can come in and speak directly to us in a closed setting for approximately 30 minutes. We hold about 4 of those every week. We also have industry group events that we attend. We will send representatives there to speak on panels or just be there in attendance to answer questions. We have our Chief of Contracting Office Industry Days where they talk about pre-award and contract specific information for those who are looking to engage with us on that front. And then, of course, today, the Future Forward Series, you will see what that's like if you haven't attended our previous, and then various conferences and events, and we are looking into reverse industry days at some point in the future. So that's just a lowdown on who we are and what we do and how we are attempting to expand our outreach to industry so we can get the best information from you, which will ultimately help us execute our mission. With that, I'd like to now introduce our speaker, Dr. Garfield S. Jones. Dr. Jones is the Associate Chief of Technology for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Dr. Jones is responsible for developing the strategy and providing guidance on the use of innovative and leading-edge technology across CISA. This includes articulating and documenting the future technology vision to achieve the organization's missions, objectives, and goals. Dr. Jones holds a Doctor of Engineering in Industrial and Systems Engineering with a concentration in Machine Learning and Artificial Intelligence. He serves as a professor at 2 universities teaching Computer Science and Systems Engineering. Dr. Jones has also filed a patent regarding the use of probabilistic neural network for vulnerabilities risk calculation of a text document. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that long introduction. Hopefully we didn't put anyone to sleep and you guys are wide awake for this presentation. So thank you all for coming. This is the introduction to the Research and Development Compendium Investigations, which as part of the strategic technology team, we looked at various technologies that could help the divisions that are within CISA. So we looked at their research gaps, we looked at the emerging technologies, we looked at what areas of cyber could really help out here. So that's kind of the purpose and the background of the compendium. We really tried to make sure that we touched on every technology that has cyber involved, but so that we don't go for 4 hours, we cut it down to some selected topics that we thought were high value to CISA and its partners. So next slide, please. Yeah, so as I was saying, the purpose of this compendium is to basically research the topics that are relevant to CISA programs. We have some strong focus areas that we look at. We're going to go over those that tie into our goals and our strategic alignment with CISA and the agencies that we support. So we're also going to this compendium is also here to inform and suggest possible courses of action. So you will see in each of the topic areas basically a call to action, and then we will towards the end we will reach out to we hope that you and CISA can work together to kind of get these topics under control and get these gaps filled. Next slide, please. So let's talk about these areas. So we have about 19 technology assessments that we went through. Those were we went pretty in depth. The actual compendium is about 100 pages, so it's pretty in depth. And what you're going to see is a snapshot of things that we looked at. And here you'll see where we basically set out the importance and the urgency as our metrics to see how these technologies relate to us and the agencies around. As you can see, the high importance ones are, of course, PQC, artificial intelligence. You can't do a briefing without mentioning artificial intelligence, and we actually married it up with zero trust. Zero trust has been a big technology. Well, it's been a big kind of buzzword. I don't even want to say it's a technology because it's more like a concept in our estimation. But you'll have various technologies that support it. Another technology here is software understanding, which most of you may not be as familiar with, but we'll definitely dive into it a bit and give you a bit of understanding, pun intended. Large language models, of course, we're going to talk about that. That's probably going to be one of our first slides that we jump into. Those LLMs have really taken hold in the last couple of years. They've been around, but I think they've really jumped into the mainstream with of course, the advent of ChatGPT and the various other LLMs that we've seen come online. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how we intend to address some of those areas. The prompt engineering, that's become a big part of how these things are designed. For us on the government side, it's so that we don't let any sensitive data out. So we'll discuss a little bit about that. And of course, cyber physical systems. These are they're a part of our lives now. Everything is got a little bit of cyber in it, but we have to marry it up with the physical systems that we're dealing with. We'll go through an actual bit of a case study in that and see how it's related to what we are doing on the CISA side and trying to implement proper resilience for critical infrastructure. And to tie into that, the SATCOM portion of it, the SATCOM and cybersecurity, that's it's an interesting topic area. One is because I don't think people realize how much goes into how many components are part of SATCOM and satellite communications. And cybersecurity is such an important part, and it's becoming bigger and bigger as we do more investigations into this, and we see how many areas possibly have weaknesses or vulnerabilities that we need to look at. And the last two are synthetic data and Web3. Synthetic data, we'll talk a little bit more about as we go into the slides, and Web3 and blockchains. I think it is of high importance. Well, we have it scored as medium importance, but high urgency, because these technologies that are associated with Web3 and blockchains are really starting to come online, and we really need to make sure that we're getting hold of them. All right, next slide, please. So the relevance of these topics that we're talking about in the compendium, as I said, we had 19, but we cut it down. We tried to relate all the topics to as you see, the relevance to CISA cybersecurity strategic plan goals. So we have a strategic plan that was released to the public, and it's basically it aligned. It has goals written to it. So we see goal 1, address immediate threats. So we looked at it, and we saw that 5 of our 19 technologies actually tie in with goal 1. Goal 2, we have the majority of our technologies harden the terrain. Just about everything that we talk about in the compendium is related to hardening the terrain, the cyber landscape, so that we don't have adversaries taking over our pipelines, or attacking us, and making sure that it's difficult for them to gain entry within our systems. And the last goal that we have, goal 3, drive security at scale. That security is what we're all about. It says we're trying to secure the critical infrastructure, reduce the risk of adversarial attacks. So just about every technology that we investigated relates to this last and final goal. And as you look across the strategic focus areas, where SBOM, we have software bill of materials, and software supply chain risk management, the SCRM, we had a couple technologies aligned with that. The vulnerability management, of course, that's one of our CISA divisions, subdivisions within CISA that does so much great work in trying to get ahead of all the vulnerabilities that are out there. We're trying to help them out as well. Of course, ZTA, as you all know, zero trust architecture. CISA has released their updated model for zero trust. I think that was released sometime last year, maybe middle of last year, if I'm correct, but don't quote me on that. But it's definitely one of those areas, and like I said, it's not necessarily technology; it's the concept. So we saw that about 5 of our technologies align. AI security is another area that we're looking at, right? So artificial intelligence, and this is really to support the AIEO that recently came out in late 2023 that really talked about privacy, securing AI, and various other trustworthy AI, things like that. So of course we had to look at technologies that really support that. Threat analysis, our threat hunting team and analysis team, that's where they're a subdivision with that we look at and try to assist with these various technologies. And unless you've been under a rock or live in the shell, you've heard about it. If you've heard about CISA, you've heard about secure by design and secure by default. Secure by design is probably I would say one of the most important programs that we are looking at. Developing that software or anything that you design, you should design with security and in mind. So I think this is one of those where a fair amount of our technologies really point to. So these are our main focus areas. If you're interested, those are the areas that the compendium as a whole really pointed to. Next slide. Again, the research highlights here. So our first topic area, I would say, is probably one of the more important areas. And again, this looking at large language models, with the advent of ChatGPT, I mean, they've been around for a while. As you can see on the chart here, the LLMs, they've been around since before ChatGPT came online. I mean, if you look at Siri, basically an LLM, but it's not as robust, of course, as ChatGPT, but it does have its issues as well. The hallucination problem is probably not as prevalent in Siri as it is in the other LLMs that came online because of the models that are being used. So in terms of how this relates to the government and what the government is trying to do with this, the government at some point, maybe we need to embrace this and know that it's coming. It's a storm. It's here. We've got to embrace it. We've got to be able to use it and control it. They are fairly useful. They have their issues, and they're pretty prevalent and pretty public about what their issues are. Those hallucinations are one. The other part that really concerns the government side of it is as the statement says there, on the privacy, the bias, and the ethical concerns that go along with it. Right? We have to be careful of the bias that are within the model. So when these models are developed, again, tying back to our secure by design, we have to make sure that they don't have they don't let privacy information out about users, or they don't have bias built in where they can only give answers regarding certain ethnic groups and so on. So we have to really be careful of that. The other part of it is, how do we use it? How can the government really use this? We deal in sensitive data. We deal with trust of other agencies, and we're a trusted agent of data. So we have to be careful when we ask, large language models or share large language models, any kind of information that we have within our data set that becomes part of that large language model and now can be actually used against us. So, I always say that it's one of those that that you can use. And yeah, as far as the large language models and getting some messages. So I want to make sure I lost my train of thought there for a second, but we want to make sure that we can use these models in the right way and make sure that we don't have any kind of leakage of information. So yeah, so and some folks are pointing out that Suri is a program, yes, but in terms of how it's built, there is some modeling to it as well, and how you ask it and how it responds. So it is you could say it's not a large language model that is similar to what we have today, but you can also say that it might have been, as this points out in it, part of that as part of the releases in the announced by year here. So I think there's some there's some fine tuning that we can do to our definition of this, but we can we definitely know that large language models should be used. They can be a problem, and we need to control them. Next slide, please. Prompt engineering. So as I kind of touched on this a little bit, the prompt engineering part of this is when we ask a large language model for information. One, we have to ask it in the correct way. You have to ask because if you don't ask the right question or you don't ask it in the right way, you might get a different answer, and you might get the wrong answer. So depending on your prompts and designing the prompts. So that's one way that we have to look at prompt engineering. The other way is the security of it, right? We've got to be careful as on the government side. So we need to learn how to design our prompts so that we can have a better idea if we're letting out too much sensitive information. This is why on the key findings on there, prompt engineering can have an impact on AI security. We are making sure that when we design a prompt, that we don't let too much information out. So as you see, even on the second bullet, poorly engineered prompts return bad information and reduce the value of LLMs. So you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. We may think it's the right question, but again, you've got to design that prompt so that we know. And this comes with training, and this comes with use. So we need to get good training. We need to get adequate training to our users so that they understand not to design prompts that are necessarily let out too much information with that. So again, here we're looking at the real full design of prompt engineering to make sure that we get the right information and the right security behind it. Next slide, please. Cyber physical systems. We talked about this, and again, if you've been around for a little bit, you know about the Colonial Pipeline. So this was a big issue. I couldn't even mow my lawn because the gas was we couldn't get gas, and I had I'm telling you, the HOA was after me. It was after everyone because we all had some long grass and everything else because we weren't trying to go to the gas station. So it was, I know it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but this is how important our cyber physical systems are, right? My lawn's important to me. I gotta, it's gotta look good. I like it nice and cut, making sure it's not like my hair, but pretty close. So the Colonial Pipeline, it is one of those reminders that we need to have resiliency built into our critical infrastructure. And this is more of a policy, this is more of help that we need with developing policy to enable resilience. We saw in our investigation that there wasn't a very coordinated effort. I mean, since the compendium has been published, since we've written a compendium, we've seen different joint bodies start to come together and work on this, but we still need very pointed policy requirements for this. We need standards set in, federal policy, federal standards. We need some R&D investment as far as how a cyber physical system will be resilient. And this may be when we're looking at digital twins, things like that, simulation. So there are tangential technologies that can help enable this more resilient cyber physical system realm. So we got to really be it's policy standards, R&D, of course, the R&D tools that can really and developing a joint and collaborative body so that everybody is on the same sheet of music when it comes to cyber physical systems. This is a really important. I don't want to understate this at all, which I don't think I'm doing, but we have to understand how important this is to our environment, and this is one of the core goals with CISA is that we protect and reduce the risk to critical infrastructure and to include cyber physical systems. Next slide. SATCOM. So SATCOM is an interesting beast, right? So I didn't really realize I guess I knew for a while, but I didn't once we started doing this investigation, we started getting invites to certain groups, with IEEE and everything else. There is a lot behind this, and it is a massive undertaking. As you can see, where we look at the traditional SATCOM architecture, and the majority of systems run on that, is we have a lot of the end users have a lot of devices already. We have to protect our satellites. We have to protect the ground. We have to protect the satellites. We have to protect any vehicles that may be associated with that, any of the messages that we look at. And as the satellite system ages, we're starting to see it's a lot with our ICS as well. There may be some aging that's in there, and these are old programming issues that may lead to vulnerability. So we see that there's a lot of issues that come from the SATCOM architecture. We really need to improve the cyber security that operate and control these services. Especially in the spaces that when we're talking about the different assets that belong to the actual satellite system. So CISA is currently working with SATCOM operators, and we encourage that we work with more SATCOM operators and to understand not only the cybersecurity aspect of it, but the physical security aspect of it as well. So because that is part of our mission statement, as well as is looking at physical and cybersecurity and trying to reduce our risk. So this is a very important piece that we're looking at. We have the the integration of several different, I guess you could say, operators or manufacturers, and we're looking at that, and there's integration points where there could be vulnerabilities there, and how things are talking to each other, and opportunities for attack. So we are looking to make sure that we don't forget about these areas that we use all the time. I know I lost my cellular phone service, my mobile service, the last week, and I was stuck trying to get an Uber in the morning. And that could have been a problem. It was a little cold, even though I was in North Carolina. It was a little cold, and so those are things that we look at and we say, oh wow, these are how. Although it wasn't an attack, it was still an area that I thought, oh wow, if this ever happens, people are really stuck, and people are really it could really affect the nation as a whole. Next slide. PQC. So this is I guess you could say this is my baby. I love this topic. I love talking about it. I could probably go on and on, but I know Monique and the rest of the crew would probably yank me off. But PQC. So if you're not aware, there is some real danger coming out in the next few years. Just what it is quantum computers, they're different than the classical computers. They run on qubits, right? And quantum computers, because they run on qubits, it's more of a probabilistic than deterministic. So with classical, you can have 1 or 0, right? We all know about that, right? The bit is 1 or 0. In quantum computing, it could be 1 and 0, right? So, and it could be anywhere in between. So there's lots of opportunity to actually find it. The 1 and 0, it's an AND gate. It's not necessarily an OR gate, right? So it's the AND gate. It means that superposition, that where you can have that 1 and 0 at the same time. So it's called superposition. What that enables quantum computers to do with is to be able to search or factor numbers very quickly. As we all know, the PKI, the public key encryption, right, or public key infrastructure is built on factoring, right? So if you're able to design a machine, which is a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, a CRQC, to be able to break the PKI, I mean, you can basically get all the information that you want that's going over the public infrastructure. That's an issue. Peter Shor, who developed this algorithm called Shor's algorithm in about 1994, circa 1994. This algorithm, if you put the Shor's algorithm on a quantum computer, right, you're going to be able to get an exponential speed up on a CRQC. You're going to get an exponential speed up, which this is showing, to be able to break the factoring on a regarding PKI. So that's where we have to now design things that we have to design technology. We have to design algorithms. NIST is working on these algorithms to these quantum resistant algorithms to put them in place so that we don't have this issue of, once a quantum computer it comes online, that that they're able to break our encryption. We have the problem now of harvest now and decrypt later. So harvest now and decrypt later is we're harvesting all this information. Our adversaries are harvesting the information now, but once a quantum computer comes online, they're able to decrypt it and get all our information. So it's a real issue that we have to embrace and start worrying about how we're going to approach not only the inventory of our systems, of our critical systems, the information that we're sending out, all the data that's behind it. So all the data, we need to make sure that we know how long the data needs to be around, and we have to make sure that we're developing tools to help us with system inventory, data lifecycle, and education. I mean, those are like the three that I can pull from the memo that was the OMB memo that was sent out outlining all the areas that we need to cover. But those are the three main issues that we're looking at to really address this problem, because we need an automated inventory. We need automated data lifecycle tool, and then we need education on this piece of technology to really help us. We're working with standards internationally, because once you have a quantum computer, right, it may not always be able to, because we're going to still have some classical computers around. So there may be some kind of hybrid environment where we have the classical and the quantum, right? And if you have the classical and the quantum, they may not be able to talk to each other. So we're going to have that time when the algorithms are released from this, and some of the vendors implement those, and they're able to work on one side, but they're not able to talk to the classical computers, which some of the areas like ICS may still have it, but we need to be able to talk to our ICS and other devices that may still be on the classical side, because we don't know how many resources are going to be needed to support those quantum algorithms. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat Manley, just to kind of talk a little bit about the standards, some of the standards bodies that we're working with right now.
Thanks, Gary. I'll make a quick plug here for some of the work that we're doing in standards. Obviously very important. Just so everybody knows, I'm Pat Manley. I'm one of Gary's branch chiefs in the strategic tech subdivision of Office of Strategy, Policy and Plans. And within the last 4 to 6 months or so, I've been tasked to figure out the standards coordination and development efforts for CISA. We'll make a plug for those on the line today that there is a national strategy for standards around critical and emerging tech. The White House released that about last May, June. And so we've been working very closely with NIST, PQC being one of the areas, but really trying to formulate a standard strategy where we're focusing internally, where our technical priorities are. Gary's walking through quite a few different technology areas here today. We're trying to identify ways in which we can build and bake in resilience in those technologies that underpin all of critical infrastructure across the country. And, Gary highlighted a few with the Colonial Pipeline, those things that can make a real impact on our day-to-day life. And so leveraging the standards ecosystem, we believe, is a good opportunity for us to partner with like-minded countries and partners and like-minded agencies to really advance security through standards development, ensuring that there's interoperability at the core, as Gary just mentioned with PQC. We're really starting to think through where we need to focus, where we need to align our efforts, not only with the interagency, but also with our international partners. And key to standards, and I'll make a kind of an early call to action before Gary does at the end, is working with industry. As many of you know, standards, it's an industry-driven process here in the US. And so we want to ensure that, these technology areas, we're really trying to leverage the standards ecosystem to ensure security, to ensure interoperability, and to ensure that we are addressing some of those more strategic risks from nation-state adversaries and the like that are really trying to influence those bodies, whether it be the ITU, IEEE, 3GPP, or the IETF. We're trying to really focus in on having a unified approach to standards development as a USG and with industry. So that's my plug. I don't want to take too much of Gary's airtime here, but just know that this is something that we're really thinking about across the board with NIST, and really would welcome participation and inputs from industry as we're really kind of laying out and focusing on the implementation of that national strategy. So I'll stop there, Gary. Hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, that's great. Thank
happy
you.
Happy to follow up with questions as you guys send them in at the end of this.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And just so that and Pat mentioned the questions, and just so that I answered one of the questions I know what regarding PQC. When are we going to get a quantum computer? I have no idea. Okay, so let's just put that out there right now. Our planning as an agency and what we recommend to other agencies is based off of 2030, right? That's where our planning is, and we're looking at that. Just one more thing on PQC. So there is another algorithm that's not really talked about, but it does. I feel like folks kind of forget it, but Grover's algorithm is the other algorithm that is of not immediate danger, because it's not something that can be run. It needs a lot more resources to be run than Shor's algorithm on a quantum computer, but that is a search algorithm which basically can search through information and can be a real problem area as well. So that's more the search algorithm, and Shore is more the factoring algorithm that can basically destroy PKI and issues with digital signatures and all the above. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that. All right, next slide, please. All right, getting towards the end here. So artificial intelligence for zero trust. Zero trust is one of the areas that CISA is heavily pushing. As you know, we had the zero trust model pushed out recently, an update to the zero trust model pushed out recently. Sean Conley and John Sims are always doing a great job with that. But here it has about five pillars. I think the CISA model has 6, but the NIST 800-207 has 5. I'm pretty sure I might have that switch around, but we really looked in on 3 key pillars here, and then the identity, the network, and the data inventory management piece. And that's where we really feel like artificial intelligence and machine learning can really assist. As you see, we have kind of a logical components that are supporting AI ML functions. As you can see, the ICAMs over there, that's where we would have some AI functions there. And then the PDP, which is the policy decision point, we look at where to put the AI and machine learning to really understand to really see the user behavior and really look at pattern recognition there, because that's basically what AI and machine learning can look at is it really began with that whole pattern recognition part of it. So I think that's one of the areas that we saw that could really benefit from artificial intelligence and machine learning. The PEP, of course, the network monitoring and network filtering, that's another area we saw. Another pillar that we saw would be effective for artificial intelligence and machine learning, that we can look at, and it's very much pattern recognition and things like that, where it could look at anomalies on the data side, and this is that is their classification algorithms and machine learning that can help with the classifying, the looking around again at patterns, and of course the tagging and be able to put the data where it should be so that we can get it tied up with the right users, getting them the right access. So that's kind of where we saw artificial intelligence and zero trust really starting to bond. Next slide, please. So the zero trust architecture, as I was talking about, if you look at it here, our research question was, what is the availability of the technology to implement the various facets of zero trust architecture? So I don't think there's one technology is going to do every single thing, but it's going to have to be a marriage of several technologies. And I'm not talking, one of those marriages that end in divorce, but a marriage that can last for a while and work out its issues. But you have, the data and the device part of it here. And that's, to talk about where we're looking at zero trust. I've seen it implemented in various pillars, right? But I haven't seen the whole thing, and I think that's one of those areas that we really need to look at how to really concentrate on certain pillars and kind of move it up all at the same time, because we have expertise in one pillar and we have expertise in another pillar, and everybody's trying to push their wares, but we've got to make sure that we can talk to each other, and that's what zero trust is just being able to have that collaboration of technologies and be able to keep those adversaries and out. Well, I guess zero trust assumes that the adversary is already in, but we're saying that making sure the adversary does not get to the data that's important to us. So be able to implement those identity issues, the right identity structure, the right data structure, and things, and so on, so that we don't have the attacks or the exfiltration of data going on. So this is really been a big push for CISA especially when considering zero trust. Next slide, please. Software understanding. So software understanding is one of those areas you're probably not as familiar with. I wasn't as familiar with it as I probably should have been, but when it was explained to me, I was like, well, it didn't make sense at first. But then I started to investigate it a little bit more. And what it is that a lot of times we install software and we push a button and we install the software and we trust that the software is good. And we've been installing software for, as you can see on there, for quite a while on the graph. And at first we understood exactly what we were installing, but as the software got more and more complex, it became less and less where we were actually understanding the software, where we're actually saying, well, this software may have a backdoor to this, and it might have all these other issues, and we knew exactly what the software did and doesn't do. And those are the things, that's why we're talking about software understanding. There's a gap between what is considered so complex software that is running on government systems and the folks that actually understand that software. So that's where we're looking at this at this various gap here, is that how can we close that gap to where we understand exactly what we're running, we understand what its capabilities truly are, we understand what can be tied back to any adversarial issues that we may have. So we're trying to get a deeper understanding of that software in for every aspect of what we're doing, and that's going to take some time. And you see the gap widened over time significantly. Now we've got to kind of turn that on its head and kind of close that gap slowly but surely, and be able to understand. This really ties into our Secure by Design as well, where our Secure by Design initiative, where we're looking at how can we make sure that there's not vulnerabilities happening in our software that we're installing, and making sure that the industry is putting the right guardrails in, so that we don't install things that could be harmful to critical infrastructure or CISA's ability to actually perform any kind of mission. Next slide, please. All right, synthetic data. So we kicked off a actual SV Silicon Valley Innovation Program for synthetic data. We're trying to use this. We have a whole lot of data. I mean, like I would say something, but it's an open audience. So we've got a lot of data, right? And we can't really share it. Right? We can't get all the analysis in there. So synthetic data is a good privacy enhancing technology that we're looking at to be able to try to enhance our information sharing and be able to send this out to various analysis and industry and academic groups, so that we can see a better insight into what's going on. I mean, we can only do so much, and then we have, this platform that we're standing up is cyber analytic platform for machine learning, CAPM, where we have a gov cloud side and a commercial cloud side. The gov cloud is AID and the commercial cloud is Maple, and we can't necessarily share the data between the two, but there's so many tools that we can look at for analysis that sometimes can't be put on the government side, but can be done on the commercial side. But the use of synthetic data to kind of help that privacy and security of the data will kind of may help to kind of facilitate more analysis from different parts of industry and academia and various agencies as well. Next slide, please. Last one here is Web 3. I guess there is a Web 3.0 and Web 3. I didn't know that there was a difference until I did this, but our Web 3 is the blockchain. So I think Web 3 is one of those areas that we're seeing a lot of technologies coming out on it. And again, this is one of those areas that, how can we make sure that these critical infrastructure operators and the federal, state, and local tribal territories are better understand and how to use these blockchains, because blockchains can actually be helpful. I wasn't a big endorser of blockchains, but I feel like if there's a certain amount of trust between certain agencies, it might facilitate information sharing and things like that. But there are cyber risks with this. What new cyber risks do these technologies introduce to unsuspecting new users? And that's our research question for this one, right? So we are looking at these technologies and making sure that although they do bring advantages, they are going to bring some issues that we need to look at, because the information sharing, the trust, that trust, especially in the blockchain, you got to make sure you're letting the right people in. It's like, the circle of trust or circle of love or whatever you want to call it, or family. You always got that family member that, you got a little issue or something like that. So you got to be careful when that family member kind of goes a little rogue or wants to I see some people have one of those family members too. But you have to be careful with that and make sure that you're monitoring those people within the blockchain, and you establish that trust, and you and of course, this kind of ties back into that zero trust, where you might be able to use trust algorithms to be able to look at these blockchains as we go through them. So the new technologies that are coming out, the trust between them, the trust in establishing the blockchains can really be part of this. As you see, there's various aspects of that blockchain, and there's various aspects that can actually end up being a risk. So just really want to call you guys to everyone out there, all the industry folks, any academics that are on the line, really want to call you guys to make sure that you try to work with us on this. I think I'm going to hand it over to Monique to let you know exactly who to contact. I think I have one more slide after this, but like I said, exactly who to contact on there. That CISA industry engagement at CISA.dhs.gov. We are constantly adding to the compendium, so please let us know if there's any other technologies or anything like that you want us to investigate and you think that we should be aware of, because this is a marriage, and as I said, let's hope we don't want that. We want one of those that lasts forever, right? But we need to work together and make sure that we get hold of these technologies and protect the infrastructure and the nation as a whole. So thank you, and I'm going to hand it over to Monique.
Thank you, Dr. Jones and Pat, for informative presentation. And yes, please, if you have any additional technology information that you'd like to share with us, please email us at CISA Industry Engagement at CISA.dhs.gov. And please continue to check out Doing Business with CISA at CISA.gov website for information regarding additional upcoming Future Forward Series. And as always, vendors are encouraged to check and monitor the DHS Acquisition Planning Forecast System, which provides high-level information regarding CISA's upcoming competitive requirements. And send APFS inquiries via email to apfs-inquiries@cisa.dhs.gov. Before signing off, we would very much like your opinion on how we did. Please click on the survey link for a short survey. It takes less than a minute, so your feedback is very welcome and appreciated to ensure that we continue to provide a high quality and valuable event. So we hope you found today's event session informative. Please join us next month as we continue to dive into what CISA is working on. And thank you and have a nice day.